Hey Sketchy friends, so in this video we are going to sketch a scene from Spain, not this one. I do have a video on sketching Plaza de España, which is what this is, in Sevilla in Spain, so you can check that out here on YouTube. And but this is one of the places we'll go to in Sevilla, because we are sketching in Andalusia, which involves Sevilla and Granada. I hope you like my Spanish accent there. So let me whiz through this very quickly, but we're going in October. There is space, so please do click the links below to check it out. So we have a bit of a welcome session. We have a tapas night out in Sevilla. Day 2, we capture Sevilla. It is the most magnificent city. It really, really is. So yeah, the Plaza de España being quite the gem in the crown, but a lot of the city is just spectacular, including the mushrooms. Yes, the mushrooms. I think it's the largest wooden structure in the world. I don't know. They're pretty cool though. And then we are going to go to part of the sherry wine triangle, which has been the center of viniculture since 1100 BC. Can you believe it? So we visit a local vineyard, we do some wine tasting, all that kind of good stuff. We sketch by the sea, and then we'll return to the city. This is what we're going to be sketching today, guys. Ronda. It just looks incredible. Please Google this location. It looks like a fairy tale. It's unbelievable. This is the Puerto Nuevo, I think. Puente Nuevo, sorry, bridge. Puente, an iconic monument of Ronda. And then we are going to go and check out a UNESCO sort of biosphere. And then we're going to go to Granada and we're going to watch a flamenco show. It's just going to be absolutely amazing. And what else are we doing? Alhambra. So I did not go to see this when I visited Sevilla. This is more in Granada. This is just like a bucket list item right here. And then, yeah, and then, you know, the farewell dinner, which is always sad to say goodbye, but usually, and I'm basing this on last year, we make friends for life, and it's just absolutely amazing. And our friendship won't end with this trip. We'll carry on chatting and that good stuff. So farewell dinner and journal sharing. So that is the trip. It looks spectacular. I hope you guys can join me. We're going to do lots and lots of sketching and see lots and lots of cool stuff. So please do check that out in the links below. And then let's get on with this tutorial. Okay, my sketchy friends. Right, so I'm going to use this Potentate watercolor paper again. If you saw my video on sketching the Portuguese scene of Lagos, the old town, then you would see that I was using the same paper. This is A5 size. It is cold press. It is 100% cotton, and it's really, really affordable here in South Africa. So, and I'm enjoying it actually. It's really nice paper. So getting the old pencil out again. I do like to kind of give myself a little plan. Nothing wrong with using a pencil. And here we go with the rule of thirds, very, very lightly, just to kind of give me some kind of idea of where I'm going with all of this. And then in the last sketch, my previous video, I added a frame, and I really liked that actually. So I thought, let me just add quite a narrow frame into this one. It's a bit narrower than the last sketch. And I really liked this kind of cut off corner where you could write the name of the place that you're sketching as well. So I did the same thing as the Portuguese scene. So this is the Portuguese scene, as you can see. I wanted to do the same thing where I've got this little corner free just to write down the place name. That came about completely naturally in the last sketch, but I thought, let me do it again. So you are welcome to steal that too. So yeah, just kind of getting an idea of the rule of thirds. I don't think I've even put the horizontal lines in. I just wanted to kind of see where I wanted to place this scene, because the problem with sketching from photographs is that the photographer has already made the compositional choices for you. It's much more liberating, but a little trickier to sketch on location, because then you can make the decisions. And sometimes, you know, you might squidge things up a bit here and there, and you might move things a bit, but that's fine. You've got like a 360-degree view in every direction of what you're sketching. So it can be a little tricky with photographs. I really didn't want that main archway in the middle of the page, so I have tried my best to edge it over towards that right vertical line that's kind of splitting the page in 2/3. I wanted to move it over there as much as I could do without losing too much of the right side of the scene. I'm sure if you really look closely, you can definitely tell that I have made things smaller than they should be or bigger than they should be. Take liberties, it's artistic license. So I was starting to draw this frame with my fountain pen, which I'm trying my best to get to work again. I haven't used it for about 4 years, but I decided I want a thicker frame, so I'm using this Tombow pen. It's irrelevant what it is, it's just it's got a nice thick line on it. And I was thinking of Portugal whilst I was writing this, so I put a P at the front of Spain there, so I was just getting my correction fluid to erase that part. So you can see I'm using this Lamy pen. I bought it during COVID actually, I think, and to be honest with you, I haven't really used it very much. I thought, you know, let me see what it's like again. So it is, I'm having to coax it a bit. Yes, I didn't wash it out, which I probably should have done. I was just like, I can't be bothered. I'm just refilling it with ink. I made a complete mess of it, but it seems to sort of be working okay now. I think this has got an extra fine nib on it, and I would be tempted to switch that out for maybe a thicker nib because I feel like it's a little too scratchy. This is the Lamy All-Star, by the way. I just really like the colour of it. It's really nice pen, but I do think it's a little scratchy for my liking. But saying that, I'm drawing on cold pressed paper right now, and the pen is probably got dried up ink in it. And actually the scribbly, scratchy line is probably really good for the texture of these rocks. So, you know, it's kind of fine for this scene. So it's really fun to draw rocks. I know they can seem quite intimidating, but just try and look for some obvious areas that you can draw with lines. So like kind of the nice horizontal lines that are running across each part of the rocks. They kind of help define separate sections. I haven't agonized over it. It's not perfect. The whole idea is just to create an impression of the scene. None of us want to sit here for like 4 hours trying to detail it out in every detail. I mean, some people might, but I don't want to. I want to get in there, I want to draw it, I want to slap some paint on it, and I want to call it done and be like, yes, I like this sketch. That's my whole aim. And it's like a memory of where I've been. Obviously, we're drawing from a picture here. On the actual trip, we will be in front of a beautiful scene like this. We are going here. This is Ronda in Spain. We are definitely visiting this area, and it just looks absolutely spectacular, and I cannot wait. So as I said in the introduction, there's spaces on the trip, so please do join me. We will have an absolute ball, and we'll learn lots about travel sketching in ink and watercolour. I mean, what really could be better? Oh, there might be some wine. That would be cool too. So you can see, obviously I've sped this up, but I am keeping it pretty loose and scratchy, and like, you know, it's rocks and mountains and plants, and that's why I really love these scenes. You can be pretty loose with it and pretty gestural, just indicating things, and we don't have to be too worried about it. If you're seeing black on my hands, that is an ink-related disaster that I had earlier on in the day. So please don't judge me for that, but that's why I've got black on my fingernails. And then I realised I just missed this little bit through the archway here, so I'm just drawing that in again, just very roughly. There's nothing precise about this drawing at all, but that's the beauty of it. You really don't need to be precise. So in the video, it looks like I'm erasing immediately, but please, please, if you're using a fountain pen, just let that ink dry for a little bit before you try and erase any lines. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit of a disaster. And I only erase the most obvious of lines. I really don't worry too much about erasing the whole thing. So I'm doing something different with the sky here. I'm sort of experimenting, to be honest. I've put water across the whole section. And then I kind of thought this was quinacridone rose, but it's not, it's madder red. And then I kind of panicked a little bit, and I was like, oh God, have I ruined the whole thing? But then I kind of added a bit more water, and then I've added a bit of indigo here. I'm kind of squinting my eye at the scene, trying to sort of, you know, put in some color where I can see it in the photograph. It's not exact, but I'm like, do you know what? When things like this happen, just leave it alone. And actually, that madder red and the indigo and stuff, it chilled out really nicely on the page, and I actually really like how it turned out, so that was cool. I will tell you, this effect in the sky and also what I'm about to do on the mountains here does work so much nicer on 100% cotton paper, even 50% cotton paper. So you can buy a cheap pack of single bits of paper like this. It doesn't have to be Arches, however you say it, Fabriano. It doesn't have to be any of the expensive stuff, but just look for that, because this kind of wet on wet stuff that I'm doing here, I'm switching between sort of a dullish purple mixture, which is the indigo and the madder red, and then, you know, like a yellow ochre kind of color. I think in this instance it's actually Daniel Smith Quin Deep Gold, I want to say. I can't quite remember, but just this kind of yellowy orangey color. And just sort of like laying that color next to each other so that it just kind of interacts with each other, like I've done in the mountains or the rocks on the left. And it really does just blend together so beautifully. But this is very paper dependent. Your paper is really going to make the difference on how this turns out. So you can see those beautiful smooth transitions. If you're not using a nice kind of quality of paper, you're probably going to end up with blooms, and it's just not going to seep into each other as nicely. So again, you don't need to break the bank. This potentate paper, for example, is super cheap in comparison with Fabriano, Arches, etc. So yeah. Or you can just buy one big sheet in your art store and then cut it up into smaller pieces. That's also a cheaper way of kind of experimenting with different types of paper. Now I'm going in with my smaller brush, and I'm just squinting my eyes again and looking for any dark areas, and I'm again not being precise here. I'm just really trying to look for those darker areas. I'm also trying to use a bit of a dry brush technique as well, just to add a bit more texture into those rocks. It's not as prominent as I would have liked it to be, but definitely this technique works way better on cold press paper or even rough paper than hot press paper. You're going to find it tricky, but because the cold press has got like a little bit of texture on it, it does react to a dry brush technique much better. And dry brush is really where you've got some paint on your brush, but it's not very wet, and then you're just dragging it very quickly across the paper. So there's quite a prominent shadow here, and I'm sticking with my kind of dull purple colors. I just really like that offset between the kind of orangey goldy color and then the dull purpley gray as the shadows. I just think it works really well. The green that I've got in my set is Daniel Smith Serpentine at the moment, Serpentine green. But so that's kind of my lightish green. And then I go in afterwards and just add in a darker green, which in this case is just called Green by Rosa Gallery. I also really like the White Nights paint, also just called Green. That's my favorite color. And I just find it so versatile. But you can see I'm just kind of dabbing it in at the bottom of areas of foliage just to give it more shape and form. And then you can go even further like I am here and add indigo into that green to make it even darker, to add extra dark bits at the bottom of your foliage. And it just gives it so much pop, you know, it just makes it pop right off the page. So you can see this scene is like very dull purples and oranges, you know, purple and orange, kind of complementary colors that opposite each other on the color wheel. So it's got that kind of color theme going on within this sketch, which is quite nice. And I'm just really squinting my eye around the scene, just looking for any areas that I can just put some extra dark bits in, just to make the scene more contrasty. And then just very loosely painting in some shadow areas in this building on the top here. The right-hand side of the building is in shadow. And then just adding some of the windows. Again, not worrying too much about the details. I'm going in a bit heavier with that Daniel Smith Quin Deep Gold. I realised that the inside of those archways were very bright. So I needed to darken the areas around it to make those pop a little bit more, so that's fine. But it really, actually, that colour is just so beautiful, and it's kind of darker in the left where it meets the mountain, and it just kind of gets a bit lighter over onto the right. It's just a really nice little effect. I'm trying to do a little bit of splatter here, but the brush, again, is very brush dependent on how your splatters turn out, and it was just a bit too subtle for my liking, so I kind of gave up on that. And then I'm just adding a bit more texture with my brush, really, just sort of using those pen lines to just add some more of those kind of horizontal breaks in the rocks, which is really going to help you define the different sections. And just looking around really just to see where I can add more dark bits, because that is what is going to give you maximum contrast. And then I thought these walls looked a bit too smooth for my liking, so I'm just going back in with the fountain pen and just adding some quick horizontal lines or some quick brick patterns here and there, and it just makes so much difference. And just sort of restating a few lines here and there just to thicken them up. But otherwise, that is pretty much done, guys, and I hope you've learned a lot of tips and tricks. I know I flew through this very quickly, but it's just to give you an idea of the sorts of things that I will cover with you guys in any workshops, in my online classes and courses where things are more in real time, and also on things like these travel sketching vacations where I can sit right next to you and help you sketch like this if this is the style that you would like to sketch in. So I really hope you've enjoyed this one. And any questions, leave them in the comments below, or you can always email me, Taria@urbansketchingworld.com. Thanks very much, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.